The Senate must decide on this matter by visual decree, but Caesar's influence grows stronger every day. We must uphold the laws of the Republic.
By early 44 BC, Cicero had become a spectator in the political life of Rome. Unable to challenge Caesar's rule, he could only preserve the ideals of the Republic in his writings, and wait for a change he had little power to bring about. Yet beneath Rome's apparent stability, resentment against Caesar was growing among senators who believed that liberty could be restored only through his death. Then, in a single morning, the political order Caesar had built was thrown into chaos. On March 15, 44 BC, a group of senators who saw themselves as saviors of the Republic assassinated Caesar during a meeting of the Senate. Cicero had not been included in the assassination plot. Yet after Caesar's death, he believed the Republic might be restored. That expectation quickly proved false. The conspirators had killed Caesar, but they had no plan for dismantling the political and military system he had created. Caesar's soldiers, supporters, and influence over the state remained. Two men emerged after Caesar's death. The first was Mark Antony, Caesar's former commander and close political ally. Antony claimed the power Caesar had left behind and sought to bring the Roman government under his own control. The second was Octavian, the 19-year-old heir adopted in Caesar's will. Years later, this young man would take the name Augustus and become Rome's first emperor. At the time, however, Rome's experienced politicians regarded him as an inexperienced heir who could easily be manipulated. Cicero made the same mistake. Cicero viewed Antony as a new tyrant seeking to take Caesar's place. He delivered 14 speeches against him before the Senate and the Roman people. Known as the Philippics, these speeches attacked Antony's character, his political ambitions, and his right to rule Rome.
He has no right to rule Rome! He has no right to rule Rome!
Cicero needed military power on behalf of a Senate that no longer possessed an army of its own. He found that power in the young Octavian. His plan was to use Octavian's soldiers to defeat Antony, and then keep the young heir under the authority of the Senate. Cicero believed that his experience and eloquence would enable him to guide Octavian. But Octavian was far more patient, independent, and ambitious than Cicero imagined. Antony was temporarily forced to retreat. But when the Senate refused Octavian's demands, the young commander marched on Rome with his army and seized the consulship. Then he did what Cicero had never expected. In 43 BC, Octavian reached an agreement with Cicero's mortal enemy Antony and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, a general and former supporter of Caesar. Together they formed the Second Triumvirate. The First Triumvirate had been a private alliance among 3 politicians. The Second Triumvirate was a legally established regime endowed with extraordinary powers. The 3 men drew up proscription lists in order to eliminate their political enemies and confiscate their property. Antony demanded the death of the man who had humiliated him in the Philippics. In the end, Octavian sacrificed Cicero. The greatest political miscalculation of Cicero's life had now been exposed. The young man he had supported to save the Republic had handed the Republic's last great orator over to his enemy. On December 7, 43 BC, Cicero left his villa near Formii and attempted to escape from Italy by sea. But the soldiers sent by Antony caught up with him. Rome's greatest orator was killed there. On Antony's orders, Cicero's head and the right hand that had written the Philippics were cut off. They were taken to Rome and displayed on the Rostra, the speaker's platform in the Forum. The form of punishment was not chosen by chance. The head that had denounced Antony, the hand that had written those denunciations, and the platform from which Cicero had addressed Rome were brought together in one place. The purpose was not merely to kill Cicero, but to humiliate his words and terrorize anyone who might imitate him. When Cicero died, the Roman Republic had not yet formally ended. The Senate continued to meet, magistrates were still elected, and the ancient institutions remained in existence. But the spirit of the Republic had been exhausted. The alliance between Octavian and Antony did not long survive Cicero. Eventually, the two men went to war against one another. Octavian emerged victorious. In 27 BC, he received the title Augustus and established a new political order as Rome's first emperor. The one-man rule Cicero had tried to prevent had become permanent. Cicero was not a democrat in the modern sense. He did not seek to abolish Rome's social inequalities or transfer political power to the entire population. The republic he defended was an aristocratic order led by the Senate. Even so, he believed that political power had to be limited by law. He argued that the state could not be surrendered to the will of one man, that public officials had a duty to serve the common good, and that political disputes should be resolved through law and debate rather than weapons. Yet his own life was filled with contradictions to these principles. He defended the law, yet executed Catalan supporters without trial. He wanted to protect the Republic, but possessed neither an army nor a lasting political organization capable of defending it. He trusted Pompey, and Pompey abandoned him at the moment of greatest danger. He chose the Republic against Caesar, only to depend on Caesar's mercy after Caesar won. Finally, he believed he could use Octavian, but Octavian delivered him to Antony. Cicero's tragedy was not simply that he lost. He understood too late that politics itself had changed. Power in Rome no longer belonged to the man who defended the best law or delivered the most compelling speech. It belonged to the man who commanded the strongest army. Cicero had no legions. He had only words. Those words were not enough to save Cicero's life. They could not save the Republic either. But after his death, they traveled far beyond the borders of Rome and reached later generations thinking about law, government, duty, morality, and freedom. Antony believed that he had silenced Cicero's voice, but Cicero's words outlived Antony, outlived Augustus, and outlived the empire they had fought to control.